Hey everyone, Daniel Kurkowski from VSM Commercial, joined today by Rafik Moore with the Caspian Group.
Thank you, Daniel.
What do we talk about today?
Today we compared a commercial deal and a residential deal and how much time it took to get the deal done and how much money could be made on each deal.
You're gonna like it, check it out. Hello everyone and welcome to the 6th episode of the Minnesota Deals podcast. I'm joined today by Rafik Moore with the Caspian Group.
Hello, Facebook friends.
Today, he dressed up for the podcast.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
But actually, what's happening is you guys are putting together a studio, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're building out a media room in our office space, and we want to share the message and share our experiences with the audience out there and basically help everybody who is looking for financial education and financial freedom to get there.
Absolutely. And I mean, when we're talking about a studio, we're not talking about just slapping a couple microphones together. We're using some of the equipment now. We're trying some new editing techniques. It's going to be really, really fun, and I'm really, really excited to see where this all goes. So
same here. I think it would be great. I mean, after all, we are a marketing company. We market real estate for lease or for sale. I figured if we add a little bit of video, a little bit of drone footage, you guys do such a great job at VSM. I'm sort of following in your footsteps.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And fortunately, we have a ton of the geniuses here helping us set up. So we're hard at work trying to make a better product to get out to you, the viewer. So please forgive our casual dress today, but it's for a good reason.
I don't think we should apologize, but that's me.
Fair enough. So what we wanted to do today is go into a couple deals and talk about how, one deal can kind of lead into another, how connections can kind of all come together. And, I'll kind of kick it off. We have a property that I purchased. It was early summer last year, and it was a single-family home down in Windham, which is a suburb of South Minneapolis. It's a really nice area, just kind of south of Tangletown. We picked that one up for $162, and the goal was we're going to put $25,000 into it. It needed some cosmetics, nothing big. It was a nice house in a nice area, and we got to work. Everything was great. The tenant moved out. Unfortunately, and I'm sure you've probably run into this before, schedules, contractors.
You get stuck with the deal because seasons change and stuff. It's a very, very difficult thing. Yeah.
So what we'd anticipated being kind of a 2-month rehab turned into a 3-month rehab, and we had to add a few things. There was some tile put in that had to get ripped out and put back in because it wasn't quite up to snuff. A few issues like that came up. And originally the plan was, buy 162, put 25 into it, sell it around 240. And, there's a nice little profit margin in there, about $40,000 after all fees.
Take that all day long, right?
Yeah, and a pretty easy deal, right? Single family houses in this market, they go pretty quickly, it's competitive. And we did a good job. What happened is the work finished about late September.
And now you're in the winter.
Yeah, a little seasonal adjustment, affects us, when we're looking at residential properties a little bit more than probably some of your stuff, I would imagine. Is that fair to say?
Seasonality doesn't really affect commercial real estate as much unless you're talking about a specific use, like maybe a hotel.
Got it.
For us, it's easier to do work in the warm months. So generally, we did a Dollar Tree remodel, and we got set back by 2 months because we couldn't do a lot of stuff outside.
Oh, that makes sense. So. Yeah. Well, so we ran into that problem, the seasonality in residential, and I dropped it to 220. I couldn't get it sold. I'm like, enough. I want to use this time to kind of experiment. So if you can think back to the mindset that a lot of us were in last year around fall, Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. It's coming.
Exciting.
Yep.
And then it doesn't sell.
Right. So we took the property, we listed it for rent on Airbnb, and tried to use that platform a little bit to generate some additional income, thinking that the Super Bowl is going to be, a big payday and going to be a great deal for us.
And was it?
It was not. Yeah, I'll get there for sure. It actually carried itself as Airbnb, even hiring everything out, cleaners, the whole deal. It actually outperformed how it would have as a traditional rental. That part surprised me because I have no experience. I'm not known as a great Airbnb operator, but fortunately, in trying to piece this all together, I ended up contacting a guy who is a very good Airbnb operator, owns an Airbnb management business. The guy's over at Stay, Minnesota. So thanks to them for their guidance, and through that, we were able to weather the storm a little bit, and this spring relisted it, got it under contract for $250 on the first weekend.
Congratulations,
so,
that's
thank
awesome.
You. Yeah.
So the moral of the story hopefully is that out of adversity, there comes opportunity, because you brought me a tenant, which I don't really like to rent properties residentially. They're short term and people turn over and then I have to clean it up. And you brought me an Airbnb tenant for our 24/9 Lindale property.
Yes.
And now I have a 5-year lease, I think.
3-year.
A 3-year lease, yeah.
Yep.
3-year lease with bumps, with business that's going to rent it.
Right.
It's great. It's really maintenance free, and very excited about it. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely.
The moral of the story is that out of adversity, sometimes you get exposed to opportunities that elevate you to a newer high.
Absolutely, and it exposes you, and unless you have the opportunity to come into contact with that adversity, you don't really get the ability to test yourself, and it forces you a lot of times to innovate in ways that you hadn't anticipated. I never wanted to learn about Airbnb. It just seemed like an entirely different model, an entirely different business, but it actually works pretty well, and there's a definite role that can be fit in and put into even a commercial building like yours.
So in your tool belt of opportunities, tool belt of your utility of your spaces, Airbnb could be a really good resource.
Yeah.
Where if you have a 3 or 6 month stretch where you don't have any tenants, you can throw some furniture in there and rent it and have a pretty lucrative business
Yes.
from that.
Yeah. And the other thing that was really, it was good for me to experience and actually realize is, at the moment, a lot of people, I think, and I was tempted to just continue to decrease the price. I wouldn't have lost money on the deal pretty much no matter what I did. But I'm like, you know what? I can take a HELOC out on this property that I purchased and have access to majority of the capital that I invested into it. But I really think that if I wait and I let it come around, it'll be worth another $30,000.
And that was a good call.
Yeah, and it actually happened that way. So for me, it was validation of trusting in your gut and all the projections, because we talk about it, a lot of real estate guys talk about, what do we think the market's gonna do? Is it gonna keep going up or is it going down? If you really believe with some conviction in what you think is going to happen, if you act on it, good things can happen.
Yes. One thing that I've witnessed in my sort of a career is going through a lot of difficulties, adversity, gets your mind thinking in a different direction.
Yeah.
And it gets your creative juices going, if you will. And I think the more adversity you face in your life, the more difficulties you go through, the stronger you become. It's like a mind is your muscle.
Right.
And the more you work it out, the stronger you get as a principal in real estate business.
Of course. And I think one additional lesson that we can learn from this is, think of the people who see you talk about deals in your life and me and mine as well. We're like, oh, if only I could do that. If I could just do what they're doing, that would be so much fun and it's so exciting. And it's like, you can.
It's right there. It's right in front of you.
And you don't have all the answers.
I think the biggest thing that anybody needs to have is access to knowledge and access to people that are experienced. I mean, there is a lot of, you could call anybody who has got experience and ask them to be a mentor. And most people that are successful do mentor people.
Of course.
And yesterday I was talking to a friend, and I was explaining to him how we did a deal. And he says, man, the only thing you have is knowledge. And because you have that knowledge, you can make those moves. And us not knowing having that information are so disadvantaged in the similar situation. So I think knowledge is important. I think part of this podcast, part of this experience is to really hopefully teach people to understand these deals, help people to build up their toolbox of knowledge and experience, whether it's options, contract for deed, down payment, mezzanine financing. I want this to be a podcast that will enlighten people and get them get them closer to their financial freedom.
Yeah, so you mentioned a lot. You talk about the division between philosophy
and skill.
And skill. And if you have the right philosophy, that's something you can work on and improve.
Philosophy and principles kind of go hand in hand, same thing.
But we want to be able to provide the skill. So you feel like you can get started. If you are started, you can move forward. I know, spending time around Rafik, where maybe in the future we'll talk about it, but he's pushing me a little bit out of my comfort zone on some deals and stuff. But I appreciate it, and you need that. So
I think you will enjoy the fruits of that labor when we turn that building around, for sure.
I panicked the first couple days, and now I'm feeling good about it.
But you were a good sport, though, because I was like, go get it done, and you went there, and you're doing a great job. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. And let's go back real quick. So you mentioned that building, 2409 Lyndale.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of information about that structure, how that was done?
Yeah, let's go into nitty-gritties of putting deals together. 2409 Lyndale Avenue is a 6-unit property that was kind of sitting abandoned for a long time. The restaurant got shut down.
Great location.
Great location. We happen to have remodeled and sold a duplex right next door.
Okay.
And I've seen the place. I really liked Ecopolitan Restaurant when it was open, and I was sad to see it get shut down.
Yeah.
So I got a hold of the seller, and basically, I think I connected him on Facebook or something, or maybe sent
social media.
Social media, yeah. Anyway, so I called him. I think it was a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I called him. I said, "Would you like to sell?" He met me at the property. We walked through, and he said the price is $675, which for the condition of the property was pretty high.
Yeah.
I basically threw an offer, and because he was expecting such a high price, I basically excused myself and went on with my life, but kept it in the back of my head. As time went on, and I became a vegan, my desire to reopen that restaurant has sort of escalated again.
Yep.
And I reached out to the guy again, and we kind of reconnected, and I offered him $600,000.
Right.
He says, if you can close by 7th of March, and I want to go to Nepal, and he wanted to reinvest the funds into orphanage.
Okay.
This is
a good guy.
20th of February.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'll do my best.
2 weeks?
I can't promise 2.5 weeks. And having a relationship with bankers are so important. I called up my guy. I said, Eric, please help me out. I need financing for this. I want to close by 7th of March. In the meantime, on the 1st of March, me and my friends went to Costa Rica for 5 days. So I was there.
Yep.
Most of the time, appraisal and all the inspections happened without me. Appraisal came in. Eric approved the deal very quickly. Now, the problem I had, well, it's not a problem, but I had to come up with $130,000 down payment.
Yeah.
And I asked the seller then, after inspection, to carry a $100,000 note.
Wow.
And he agreed to it, which reduced my down payment to about $20,000.
So just for clarification for the residential viewers and stuff, a carryback is essentially
it's basically a second mortgage where seller finances your down payment after your first mortgage.
Right.
And when the appraisal came in high enough, lender didn't really have a problem with it. But what happened is certain things that he told me about, which he might not have known, were not true. And I contested it, and right before the closing, I think 2 days before the closing, I got another $50,000 discount.
Right.
So essentially, I was able to buy a $600,000 property with a $38,000 down payment.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Well, needless to say, right now, I mean, I'm not going to jinx it, but I have an offer for $700,000, which I'm not going to probably sell, but we'll see. If they come aggressively, and if they really want it, I'll let them have it. Otherwise, I'll hold it. We have a restaurant tenant right now who wants to come in. We have rented upstairs to your tenant.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful building in a great location, and we're very lucky to have it. But again, it's not about me buying properties. It's about the experience that we had doing it. I want people, our audience, to know that when you buy a property for $600,000, don't always think that you have to come up with $120,000. There's many ways for you to come in and buy it with almost no money down.
Right, and I think you
have
can
to be creative.
I think you can kind of compare and contrast a little bit. Would you rather be me, who bought a property for $163,000 or $162 cash, put another $25,000 into it cash, held it for 6 months, had to learn Airbnb to make $45,000, or would you rather put $38,000 into a $600,000 asset that you're all in for $550 to resell for $700 in 2 months?
See, I'm not as privileged as you. You know, I came with nothing. I mean, the fact that we built a $50 million portfolio now came from, you know, steps of buying stuff with no money out of pocket. So I always have this mindset of not having any money, and because we go after 7-8 deals at a time, we never have money for down payment. So
right.
I constantly have to reinvent myself and find ways to make deals work creatively. So
yeah.
I have sort of become a deal junkie that needs to figure out a way to buy buildings with as little out of pocket as possible, because that's how I can play on such a wide arena with so many deals.
It's the maximum use of your time and money.
Yeah, and it's leverage of other people's time and other people's money.
Absolutely.
So, definitely.
So, really, really interesting deals. You can kind of look at the difference of how you can structure them between, you know, and I think it's a good comparison between some residential and commercial investing, where a lot of people looking at investing in real estate, they get residential and they don't understand commercial as well, so they lean more towards that residential side. But the upside for someone with the skills and philosophy to do these commercial deals is astronomical.
Well, look, I mean, I started with houses. My first property was a house for myself, and we fixed it up and sold it. I bought duplexes, fourplexes. I've done a lot of deals, but I've always wanted to improve myself. I wanted to be better, and it's natural for us to get into commercial real estate. The reason why I didn't really get heavy into apartments is because by the time I was mature to be investing, and commercial real estate world opened to me, apartments did not make financial sense.
Yeah.
A lot of people were buying them at a very low cap rates. And so to me, when I have a choice of buying a property and making 3 times the equity, and buying an apartment for a long-term hold, which I didn't have the money, like you do, privileged guys that you are.
I wish.
So I had to figure out a way to keep turning the equity and buy, stabilize, refinance, sell, buy, stabilize, refinance, keep for a long-term appreciation.
Right.
So.
And I will say that other people's money was used on my deal as well. But I take your point.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thanks for listening, guys. I think that was a good comparison of a couple kind of deals, a few general thoughts, and we really look forward to seeing you in the future in the new studio.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle.